uh, a decade before, if I'm not wrong, in University of Hyderabad, the same Appa Rao did rusticate Dalit students. University of Hyderabad students, largely it was the Dalit students from scheduled caste background. So that now he has also been a main person behind pushing Rohit Vemula to commit suicide, and also rusticating partials as ghettoizing Dalit students in University of Hyderabad, focusing exclusively the Ambedkar ideological student who are carrying his ideology forward. So that now recently police violence was also shown on students who suppress their voices. Then later part, the Wire also released the plagiarism part of the Vice Chancellor, showing how meritorious he is. And so also we heard from sources that during protest, during Chunduru violence, when the students were mobilizing fund in University of Hyderabad, that when they approached Appa Rao, so Appa Rao asked what community they are from, why are you collecting funds? So that he said, people who approached him for fund did say that we are mobilizing fund for the support of the victims affected by the caste violence from the caste Hindus. So that he also said that I am also from caste Hindu, I can't give you the fund. So that these are the stories which we hear like flickering, comes and goes. As a ASA student, Ambedkar Students University student, and also Joint Action Committee member in University of Hyderabad, and also being in the forefront of the Dalit Ambedkarite movement in the university, Central University of Hyderabad, could you narrate to us these all things little in a broader way?
Thanks Ravi, and thanks Dalit Camera for this wonderful event. I didn't expect to meet you here at this event, which is very in the context of very disturbing and very helpless situation in which HCU is going through. It's indeed very deeply thoughtful of you to place this whole issue in the longer history of the Dalit students and especially Appa Rao kind of faculty members as a phenomenon, casteist, or rather thoughtlessly casteist faculty members and administrators especially in a longer history of HCU. Thanks for this question. Firstly, in 2002, it's a watershed moment for HCU and for ASA also, in a sense that 10 very important, very economically backward and socially marginalized and oppressed students were rusticated. That is true, and he was the hostel warden. But the way in which the university administration, the lack of support that these students got, the very feeble support and very in fact political support that we got from outside in the year 2002 were in fact put into a certain kind of a loss of memory. When Appa Rao came to as a vice chancellor last year. Now the thing in 2002 is it is very interesting to look back. How we didn't get any support in 2002, and how in 2015 and 16 a phenomenon like Rohit Vemula's institution murder or our martyrdom, if we say so, became a very big movement in a way that Dalit movement integrated with students movement and social movement in this country and across the world. It has become a big movement. This is one of the very good positive points we have to take with respect to the politics, student politics in the campus. From 2002 to 2016 there's a lot of shit. However, the violence in which our students are being affected, kind of attacked, marginalized, suppressed, when they are articulate and very powerful in their political statements, the violence has become also nuanced, direct and strong, open, and in very sophisticated way, academically, physically, and through legally also. Now, one of the events in 2002 difference from 2016 is this: on the and the return of Appa Rao. Appa Rao had gone on leave. That's what they said when Rohit Vimla committed suicide. When all 5 students were socially boycotted, and there were serious discussions and movements that were happening before Rohit's death. Appa Rao did not anyway interfere in any of this. Did not have a human heart to even address the issue. However, when Rohit committed suicide, Appa Rao went on leave for 2 months. And the way Appa Rao came back as a kind of a takeover of the university is something to be seriously thought about academic spaces, and especially what do Dalit students or the movements which support movements that are against caste discrimination in higher educational spaces, when those movements are in the forefront, how do these forces like Appa Rao, support Appa Rao, come back very strongly at different kind of levels, the spectrum at which they come, legally, physically, academically, and administratively. When he returned on last week, 10 days back, it was almost like a very clear-cut military takeover, telling very cryptic orders to some of the administrators that he trusted on very silently, which went silently behind the back when even Professor Periyasamy was the Vice Chancellor for the last 2 months, interim Vice Chancellor for the last 2 months. He didn't know about it and he was away. This whole issue was going behind the back. And this secrecy is where the caste discrimination, the academic spaces work as very violent in its own monstrous violence. And this secrecy is what we also feel. The monstrosity of this violence is also what is killing our most of the Dalit students from marginalized sections, and also the Bahujan students and faculty. And this secrecy we have to take very seriously, I think so. After the takeover, to protect the secrecy, which is very open, violent, what did he do? There was a complete, hushing up through the police action, and then you have different kind of orders in which, you would have already known about the stories, that there was no food, the messes were called to close, non-teaching staff were orchestrated in a certain way to bunk, going to do work, administrative work. It's a kind of an emergency. It's an emergency kind of a undeclared emergency kind of a situation in which it has a state of sieging and uproar, where it is psychologically and emotionally and also even physically so depressing. And this is a social depression that's being converted into the academic space. And a phenomenon like Appa Rao is doing it very sophisticatedly for the last how many years in the academic space. Something you have to take seriously and do kind of work on that. In fact, the protests are going continuously. They're going in our own way, legally and internally. Some concerned faculty, SC/ST faculty forum, student groups. However, this power of secrecy, secrecy of caste, I'm not sure how to work with. Probably you gave one answer, like probably when they went to, I didn't know about the story that was doing Sunduru thing. Perhaps he must have told. And it's much more interesting is that the working of him like this, what else is not Sunduru about it, I don't know, in this whole academic violence he's doing. Secondly, the story about plagiarism, which the Wire had come up with, which he has accepted, and he has also told sorry that he made a mistake. That's very foolish of him to actually do that, firstly. But however, we have to just not take that very, very silently, these things. See, people like these people are the ones who demolish our academic spheres, which is a huge hope for students from marginalized sections who are just entering into these spaces as a symbol of hope. In fact, these are spaces where there's huge imagination of hope. And people like Appa Rao do this very sophisticatedly and stay on. In fact, we should go and these papers are interestingly reported that only 2 years back they were published. We have to seriously look for his academic history. Perhaps his whole academic life would have been a plagiarized life, and that's how caste works. You plagiarize and you work, and you own networks, you own, and you work like Gestapo works, and then use police to protect yourself. And this is something you have to take serious action and reaction about. And I think that's I think perhaps legal cases, and today academic council meeting is happening, it seems, and students are protesting there. And life of a a marginalized student, and now, like, now I don't want to say that, like, but then it's a larger movement, social movement. uh, it's also something like, it's protest itself is our life. And these are like hopes, and hopes that we come into these university spaces with dreams, social dreams, with community dreams and things like that. And what we do is, like, protest all your life. And what towards what? Secrecy is like Appa Rao to continue in power.